is a MARii podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to MARii Mobility World. I'm Azaria Tagaya, your host for this episode. And as usual, on this show, we talk about technology and developments relating to industries in Malaysia. And today, we are taking a look at kids and robotics education in the country. Now, we've often heard about starting children young and giving them exposure at a young age in order for them to better embrace knowledge and also education, no matter what the subject or skill is. And understandably, the way children learn about machines and about robotics will eventually shape their relationship with those technologies in the future. So what is the current state of robotics education in the country, and how can we encourage children to embrace knowledge and the know-how when it comes to robotics? To talk more about this, today we have Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Azizi Abdul Rahman, Vice President, Academia, Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society, or Myras. Hi, Professor. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. We also have Dr. Shamimi Shamsuddin, Senior Lecturer, Faculty of Manufacturing Engineering, University Technical Malaysia, Malacca, or UTEM. Dr. Shamimi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Azaria, for having us.
Thank you. It's our pleasure. Now, let me start with Professor Muhammad Azizi first. Before we go deeper into robotics education in Malaysia, what is the current state of, when we talk about education and robotics and relating to children and kids, what exactly is the state of robotics education in Malaysia at the moment? What's the scenario like in the country?
Well, before we talk further on the current challenge or opportunities in educating Malaysian about robotics, so I would say democratizing robotics among Malaysian is rather layman than educating Malaysian about robotics. Yeah, so this is one of the challenge actually. All right. So in other words, a strategy to democratize robotic for a wide range of application and industry is utterly important right now. Okay, so democratizing robotic ecosystem for everyone, and the awareness that has been benchmarked globally. Okay, for example, we can leverage all open sources application, borderless shared communities, customization in line with global trend. So for the past 3 decades ago, Malaysia progressing quite well in robotic journey. Okay, as to say, however, to date, neither a framework or roadmap that provide strategic direction for robotic in Malaysia, especially, is available. So not yet available. So here's how Myras took the opportunity to consult the government on the establishment of the robotics and automation ecosystem in Malaysia, right? So in general, I would say we need a solid robotic and automation ecosystem in, roadmap, as a way forward to building a robotic ecosystem in Malaysia. Right. As for your information, the National Robotic Roadmap, is currently developed by the Academy of Science of Malaysia, under the advisory of the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, mostly lah. Way back in 2020. It is still in a state mode. Due to the interim phase. So for now, the only interim report has been discussed, but a lot of information needs to be input, before it's ready to be presented to the cabinet. By the way, Myras, one of the technical committee members at the ministry level, who is currently looking at this National Robotic Roadmap, NRR, for short, very responsible together with other stakeholders. From the NRR point of view, we highlight specifically the issues, the gaps, and challenges for 5 agenda okay, in advancing the robotic ecosystem in Malaysia. So for instance, okay, issues on gap, challenges, okay, in government, okay, that is national level coordinating body, and then of course the talent, the topic today, okay, that is the inconsistency, okay, in the educational robotic ecosystem. On the research and development, commercialization, as well as innovation. Okay, on legislation, okay, the regulation, standard, and so on and so forth, as well as the socio-economic impact. So these are the five strategic thrusts included in the NR. So this is the current state of the Malaysia robotic. So we need after this we need to have a more input so that we can have this NRR established at the national level. So people will know, okay, this is our plan and what future in robotic that Malaysia could have and so on. Okay, that's my comment so far.
I see. Okay, Dr. Shamimi, what would you say is the current state of robotics education in Malaysia? How much do Malaysians know and acknowledge about robotics education?
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Ms. Azaria, for the wonderful introduction on robotics education. But before we proceed further, let me walk you through what is the definition of a robot. A robot is a machine designed to execute one or more tasks automatically based on the instructions that we program. Robots may come in many forms, shapes, and sizes, and what a robot looks like depends on its purpose. A flying robot might look like a helicopter or have wings like insects. Cleaning robots may look like a vacuum cleaner. And robots that are meant to interact with humans, naturally they have face, eyes, or mouth, just like we do. Now, about robots and robotics awareness in Malaysia. Now, the picture that comes to mind when we talk about robots is usually an automotive production line with autonomous robots doing tasks such as welding and painting. We can see many pictures and videos of these robots in car manufacturing facilities in Proton and Produa. Other than now in our homes, we have the robot vacuum cleaner. It sweeps around the house and it can go back to its cupboard and automatically plug itself and recharge itself. And by having this kind of robots, robot vacuums have made our lives very much easier. And how far has Malaysians acknowledged about robotics education? Well, based on my research in 2019, there's this subject called Design and Technology or Reka Bentuk Technology, which is very much related to artificial intelligence, computer programming, and robotics. And it has been introduced to Year 4 pupils beginning 2020 in Malaysia. Through this, students at primary school level were exposed to basic knowledge in robotics, AI, coding, and programming. Thus, as far as our government is concerned, it is very clear that Malaysia is aware on the importance of tech learning, especially robotics. Now, I strongly believe that Malaysians have acknowledged that robotics education is brilliant, fun, and can suit all ages. For me, robotics education involves soft skills such as critical thinking and problem solving. There are so many online classes that can teach basics of programming to everyone. And for us to get ahead in the 21st century, kids not only need to be able to use technology, but to develop it as well. Thus, we can see that many parents, including myself, have opted to send our kids to robotics or coding classes. We want our kids to be able to learn how to code. And as I find that kids are so full of curiosity, it is a great move for them to enjoy what is actually quite technical. And in my humble opinion, we do have to prepare our children for the future. And what robotics as a preparation for future education? First of all, children find robots fun. Based on my experience, when I bring robots to showcases at schools, you can see how their eyes would light up when they see robots, you know? And robotics is also an effective way of introducing programming to students. It provides skills useful in future employment, and it is also suitable for children with wide range of abilities. Now, there's also evidence that robots work well with children with autism. And I am very proud to say that I am one of the research pioneers in Malaysia who looked into how a robot called the Now Humanoid Robot can help children with autism. So that's all from me about the awareness so far in Malaysia.
I see. Okay, Professor Azizi, just now you told us a little bit about Myras. Can you explain more? How does Myras come into the picture? What is Myras's objective, its mission and vision in helping robotics education in Malaysia go further?
Yeah. Okay. Allow me to take this opportunity to introduce Myras. By the way, okay. Actually, Myras, or Malaysia Robotics and Automation Society, was first established 9 years ago, way back in 2012. Actually, okay. So Myras is a professional organization, okay, that aims to bring together multi-stakeholders, okay, in robotics industry towards the goal of advancing the robotics and automation industry in Malaysia. Yeah, that's it. So basically, Myra serves stakeholders, okay, from four main clusters. Okay, this is a quadruple helix, okay, approach, like the industry, okay, the government, the academia, as well as the public. So for the industry, of course, they are the suppliers, builders, and users of robotics equipment, and the government. Okay, as I mentioned before, they very much focus on policymaker, administrators that help create, okay, executable policy to advancing the robotics and automation industry. Okay, so from the academic point of view, of course, it refers to our private and public institution, okay, of higher learning that are important in training talents, okay, doing R&D in the robotics and automation scope. Okay, this is my role as a vice president at Myras. From the public point of view, we know that they are the consumer, okay, of robotics and automation technology, and then they maintain the demand, okay, for robotics and automation product. So by default, Myras vision is set to be a professional platform where all engineers and technologists, okay, or robotics player, okay, can meet and network to discuss robotic and automation program, okay, in the country. So in decade ago, we don't have a society like this, okay. So and our missions are first to communicate to the government on the needs, okay, for robotics and automation in Malaysia. Okay, here's our effort in talking to the government about having the national robotic roadmap way back in 2018. Okay, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, the idea is to create or to build our solid national robotic ecosystem. So the second one is to create awareness, okay, on robotics and automation, okay, through various activities such as conferences, seminars, and nowadays webinars, right? Okay, competition, of course, okay, certification program, etc. In line, okay, with the content of the NRR, National Robotic Roadmap. Okay, for instance, one of our objective is to conduct a professional certification program, okay, recognized by the industry and the government, of course, sector, to help build competency, okay, in robotics and automation, both nationally and globally. By the way, more info about Myras can be found on our website at myras.org. And stakeholders are encouraged to be part of the Myras membership program.
Professor, could you explain more about the challenges when it comes to robotics education in Malaysia? What are some of the challenges, and what is Myras doing to overcome these challenges or problems in robotics education?
Okay, let's focus on the because we are in the what do you call that, in part of national robotic roadmap, where all the challenge gap are in this roadmap still. And then now let's focus on one of them is a talent, okay, in robotic education, yeah, whereby this is one of the crucial issue highlighted, okay, in this roadmap actually. Firstly, lack of robotic talent planning, okay, coordination and promotion to move the national robotic agenda, okay, for the country benefit. And secondly, lack of well-trained educators, okay, at all level of education, okay, to nurture and develop this national robotic talent. Okay. Thirdly, lack of effective approaches, okay, in developing and attracting robotics talent. Okay, that is okay. The question of when and where to start. Okay, and lastly, is lacking awareness and lifelong learning efforts in robotics talent for the nation. So therefore, based on this highlighted issue, Myras offer its capacity and capability to support the establishment of a national robotic roadmap accordingly. So that's my point on the current challenge and opportunities.
I
Right?
see.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Shamimi, talking about kids and learning robotics in Malaysia, what do you think is the ideal age for children to start learning about machines and robotics?
All right, thank you. We know that we are now embracing the future where robots are designed to take even social roles in schools, healthcare settings, and homes. We know that in the future, robots will be a common sight in our lives. For robotics programming, kids can be introduced to coding as young as 5 years old using visual programming, which are really basic, and we call it block-based coding. Okay, so young kids, through block-based coding, kids can learn basic programming without they having to key in the syntax per se. And by downloading these codes to simple robots, these codes can make the robots move and even navigate through obstacles. Okay, let's go to our neighboring country, Singapore. A pilot study was started in 2016 by Nanyang Technological University to see how robots can be used to teach children in interactive ways. And using this pilot project, 2 humanoid robots called Pepper and Now were deployed at 2 preschools in Singapore. So we know that Singapore is already starting towards this. Meanwhile, in Malaysia, how early is too early? Coding or basic and elementary robotics. Now, even if kids aren't old enough to know how to read, they can still start to learn the basic concept. So to all parents out there, if you and your kids are ready to tackle some robotics projects of your own, you can search for inspiration online. There are hundreds of free and paid tutorials, many of which cater to kids and families. For example, makezine.com, DIY.org are websites that provide experiments that teach kids about robotics. Now, for older kids, we have Arduino, which is a simple controller for kids who are curious about how things work, and it combines coding and hardware. And luckily, Arduino is quite cheap, and it is an open source microcontroller. And more advanced than Arduino, we have Raspberry Pi, which is also small and affordable computer that's great for kids. It is a common controller to build small-scale robots. And of course, we have Lego robots for kids, which has become really popular. And some of the most popular Lego robots are the Lego Boost for girls and boys, aged 7 to 12 years old. And perhaps you've heard of Lego Mindstorm, which is for ages above 10. So there you go. That's my take on the ideal age for kids to start learning robotics.
Okay, but Dr. Shamimi, do you think that learning about robotics is some people can say that it can be too technical for kids to start learning about robots, especially at a young age, and if they build interest, they want to learn more. So is it too technical for younger children, do you think?
All right. In my opinion, teachers, schools, and even government officials must rethink about education and how to prepare our kids now for future generation to take advantage of what are the opportunities that are available at this current day, including robotics education. And for me, basically children and even people at all ages should be allowed to follow their passion and make their own choices. Now, we have been talking about Industry 4.0 for quite a while, and now the timing is just right for us in Malaysia. Do you know that autonomous robots is one of the 9 pillars of Industry 4.0? Therefore, for me, I think that the robotics subject needs to be one of the subjects available, not compulsory, for the current curriculum in children aged 10 and above. So let the kids decide what are their passion, and if they choose robotics, let them be really good at it.
Okay, Professor Azizi, if we can take a look back since the early 2000s until now, there have been a lot of robotic competitions that have been building up. We have at the school level, we also have at the national level. So
Yes.
there are a lot of competitions now, building children's interests and piquing their interest in technology. But do you think, how effective are these competitions as a platform for children to learn more about robotics and to embrace technology as they grow older?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Yes, I totally agree with that, actually. Okay, based on the data we have, okay, there have been several robotics competition held in the early 2000s. Right. Yeah. So I quoted this from one concept paper presented on the goodness of using robotics in education, especially STEM education focus. Okay, there are robotic competition at the national level, like National Robotics Competition (NRC) for all schools. Okay, and then I think the participation increased 10 times. Okay, from 300 teams. Okay, in 2005 to 3,000 teams. Okay, in 2013. Okay, so I think this was, a good initiative. Okay, for robotic awareness. Okay, especially for the school kids. Okay, RoboFair. Okay, at MRSM, Robocon, and FIRA World Cup, Robo World Cup. Okay, at TVET and tertiary level, such as for IHL, polytechnics, college community, etc. So, in addition, at the international level, there are robotic competition like World Robotics Olympiad (WRO), selected from the team who's ranked top in the NRC to compete globally. Okay, International Youth Robotics Competition, Young Innovators Challenge, and the World Robot Challenge, okay, at the World Robot Summit held annually since 2007, organized by the Japanese government agency. So on a global scale, robotic education program was started in 1990, right? So the question of whether the robotic competition or challenges are good platform for the kid to learn and practice about robotics is definitely yes. Okay, so this is because the main objective of robotic competition or challenge be organized among school kids is to inculcate and foster their capability to solve problem through creative thinking, logic, and out-of-the-box approaches. Okay, so in other words, we need the kids to deal with real-world scenario problem solution using robotics. All right. So on top of that, this is the same way to encourage and emphasize their higher order thinking skills, as well as the social skill gained from the team working experience. So the platform are there for the kid to show their capability. The main issue or the main challenge is the readiness of teachers. Okay, that's it. Well-trained teachers and schools and administrators, of course, okay, to leverage this opportunity. So as analyzed by Academic Science Malaysia, okay, this issue has also been highlighted in the NRR interim report and has been one of the challenge in talent development as part of the educational robotic ecosystem. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right, Dr. Shamimi, talking about what Professor Azizi mentioned just now about having children be exposed to robotics education from a young age in schools, Dr. Shamimi, in your opinion, do you think that robotics as a subject, should it be compulsory in schools from preschool to primary school all the way to university? What do you think?
Thank you. And as I have mentioned earlier, children and even adults, we must be given the freedom to choose what is our passion and interest. So previously I have mentioned that a 10-year-old is a good age for the kids to start choosing what is their interest at heart. So by offering robotics as one of the subjects that can be chosen to be combined with the other compulsory subjects, the children might be able to choose robotics as one of their passion. However, teachers, educators must give them ample exposure for them to make the right decision. For your information, throughout schools, and then we have secondary schools, there are technical subjects that are offered. So children and up to adolescents and teenage years, they are being exposed to all these technical things throughout school. And finally, when they enter the university, they can choose whether they want to pursue further in robotic-based career. We have universities that offer robotic-based engineering courses, and these are one of the avenues that our society can look into to support the National Robotic Roadmap, as mentioned by Prof. Azizi just now.
I see. Dr. Shamimi,
if I may add about that. So actually, it's not necessary to be compulsory. Okay, but the introduction should be embedded, okay, in the curriculum. So empowering the current STEM education is paramount. Okay, so the robotic element can be inculcated and accustomed. Okay, so because kids love to play, so practice learning by playing concept is, I think, it's a good approach for us. Okay, to start with, okay, real world scenario problem solution. Okay, by using robotic technology are the right tool. Okay, for our kids to at least before they go into technical about the robotic, they just can play with the robots, and then this the concept. You learn by playing. That's all. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Indeed. Dr. Shamimi, what do you think are some of the aspects that are still lacking in terms of embracing robotics, and how can we encourage robotics education and to have children embrace knowledge when it comes to robotics?
All right, that is a very interesting question. Now we know that robots are designed to interact with children in schools, healthcare settings, and even our homes. And we know that robots can assist with learning and play for kids and even us adults. Now, along with these potential benefits, robots also raise unique concerns about ethics and how our children and even people will become emotionally attached to robots, especially for robots that look like real-life pets and humans. For your information, I myself have a very cute robot called Paro, which looks like a baby seal. It's so cute. And robots come in various shapes and sizes. Consequently, some people have also raised religious concerns about the shape of humanoid robots, which look exactly like humans. All right. On another note, there is also the growing concern that can robots actually replace humans one day? Now, we know that there are jobs that have been taken over by machines. However, with that, there are also new opportunities for new jobs to be done by people. Some of these human jobs focuses on the creative thought type of jobs. So we know that by having robots, people will have to work smarter and more efficient. So in future, people and machines will work together, and now they are already doing so in manufacturing facilities and even at home. And on another note, more research and development must be conducted locally so that we can have our very own robotics technology. And we still have a long way to go, but we must start now. There is also the cost factor. For your information, robots can be quite expensive, but we Malaysians must not be left out as we need to embrace this technology. What an education policy in the age of robots must do is to focus on the greatest strength of advantages of humans over robots, which is our ability to be human. This means that education that builds on empathy, kindness, understanding, and acceptance is important for us to move forward while we are learning new technologies, including robotics. As we know, robots do not have these human qualities. And finally, we must advocate our children and society to put into practice these robotic and programming applications to benefit the society as a whole.
I see. Okay. Finally, Dr. Azizi,
Yeah.
in the future, what do you think we should expect concerning the robotics industry, and how can we prepare for it beginning now?
Well, as we already know, okay, the robotic industry is a key part of the fourth industrial revolution in the country, and the momentum is continuous, right? So the future of robotics in Malaysia, okay, should be properly planned and executed based on the global scanning and benchmarking. Currently, at a global benchmarking scale, okay, Malaysia is emerging and expected to become a regional robotics hub by 2030 among other developed and matured countries. Okay, that's why the NRR framework, okay, it should be ready by now rather than later. So from the robotic industry point of view, okay, McKinsey study, okay, data show that 70% okay, of surveyed executives said advanced robotics, okay, will become a very important productivity driver by 2025. Okay, it's another 3 or 4 years from now. Okay, so this is a good indicator for Malaysia to move forward to be part of global players in the robotic industry. Right, so ready for change. Currently, we have identified 5 important factors or cases for change. Okay, for example, number 1, increased productivity, okay, especially in manufacturing, agriculture, and services. Okay, this is in line with our industry forward policy. Second one, decrease dependency on low skill foreign labor in the manufacturing sectors. Okay, production and service market. Okay, through robotic, the Malaysian economy it will be fully mobilized of resources. Talent, of course, okay, will be optimized to produce higher value. Okay, when this is achieved, so we could minimize, number 3, okay, minimize the outflow of our currency. Again, this is good for our economy driver. Increase the next one, increase the quality of life for social societal well-being. Okay, this that is in line with our national shared prosperity vision 2030. Last but not least, we really need this pandemic-proof and disaster resilient community. Okay, so when it happened, so robotic solution is there for us and it's ready. So overall, we could pick up global strategic approaches for greater adoption of robotics planted on Malaysia high impact sector as a whole, such as the services sector, retail, healthcare, and so on and so forth, agriculture sector, and next generation engineering and manufacturing sector. That's in line with my STIE's socio-economic driver. That's my comment on that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Azizi and Dr.
Yeah.
Shamimi. That's all the time we have for today's show. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for sharing with us on MARii Mobility World.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, from Myras, that was Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Muhammad Azizi Abdul Rahman, as well as from UTEM, Dr. Shamimi Shamsuddin, talking to us about kids and robotics education in Malaysia. For all our listeners, if you missed out on any part of the podcast today, you can always search for MARii Mobility World by typing in plug in with MARii on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's all for me for this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
This is a MARii podcast.